There you go. That's right. Yeah, happy to be here. Great if we didn't record the whole thing, because I've noticed a direct correlation between how many cameras are out there and how honest I can be.
Right.
So if you want a lukewarm, homogenized Q&A, film the whole thing. But it's, yeah, I feel more comfortable. No one comes here to get like a zinger, you know, and show up on the internet bad-mouthing Al Snow. But I'll bad-mouth Al Snow anyway, just for the fun of it. But thank you all for attending. I know it's the end of a con. It's been a lot of fun. I see the video there, and it's really reflective of how much fun it is. Matter of fact, last night I was sitting right about where you are watching the burlesque show. Oh. I'd never seen a burlesque show, and it was a lot of fun. Not for this gentleman. Maybe another 10 years until you watch it, but it was good. It was, yeah, good fun.
Yeah, you had fun.
Yeah, I did have fun, yeah.
Now, this graphic is amazing. But as I mentioned, WWE Hall of Famer. But, you know, there have been some folks who have gone into the Hall of Fame twice.
Yeah.
Why not? Why isn't Cactus Jack, Dude Love, and Mankind in the Hall of Fame?
I'm going to be really honest with you. There was some talk about inducting the Rock and Sock Connection, but I think it would have been really clear that I was just carrying Dwayne Johnson. Not that I don't want to do it. I like to help out a buddy when he's down. I think it would just be far too obvious that was the case. I don't know. I'm in once. You know, that's good enough for me.
That's that's a heck of accomplishment.
Yeah, that's good. But as far as appearing, I don't think I'll be inducted as any of their characters. But there is a chance. Who knows? You know, they're going to run out of people eventually to induct,
right?
And then they'll be like, "Do you want to like? How about that union you were a part of with Big Show?" Like.
Next thing you know, Sacco gets an induction.
Yeah, Sacco's in there, yeah.
So this is clearly not your first time in Oklahoma City, right?
No, definitely not. I remember wrestling The Undertaker in Puerto Rico. And, man, you know, I don't know if you know this. Undertaker's a tough son of a gun. And he got a horrible staph infection from our Boiler Room Brawl match. And he did wrestle in Puerto Rico, but he was like a walking dead man. I don't even know how he got out to the ring. So for 3 nights, Bill Watts, Cowboy Bill Watts, replaced him. And I lost to Cowboy Bill Watts in a casket match in Oklahoma. And Bill didn't even lose his cowboy hat in defeating me. So I've had a few crushing defeats, but it always stunned me like that I got to meet Danny Hodge. And like I don't know if you guys know of Danny Hodge, one of the great, and he had this grip strength that was just like incredible, you know, where someone could be bad-mouthing a wrestler and say, hey, let's just settle this, and he'd come up and bar, like, no need to fight, let's just settle this, and he would reach out his hand to shake, and he would literally break every bone in that person's hand and have them in a puddle like of their own, you know, the pee-pee and duty, you know, that type of thing. And so when I was inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame in Iowa, Terry Funk, the great Terry Funk, inducted me. And I saw that Danny Hodge was putting people in headlocks. And I said to Terry, Terry, I need to know. And Terry looked at me, and Terry's a wild man. You know, he's passed, but he was one of the wildest men in wrestling. He looked at me and goes, Cactus, you don't want to put your head in that arm. And I was like, okay. But anyway, it was always a kick to come to a place where there was such great wrestling history. So I always did like it here.
Yeah, Mid-South Wrestling. Actually, I was in the building like right next door-ish.
I'm not sure.
Right.
I did world class. I've had about 3 or 4 people tell me they enjoyed my work in Mid-South, and it's too difficult to correct them. I just thank you. And then I remind them that I defeated Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Twice. How many times? Twice.
Now, I think the Rock and Sock Connection could be almost considered family.
In what sense?
A lot of traveling together. You're brothers.
You thought The Rock traveled with me? Rock didn't roll in the cars that I rolled. Rock didn't stay in the motels, and yes, that's motel with an M, that I stayed in. Yeah, we were great friends, and you know the crazy thing is we're better friends now even than we were. I take part in, I don't want to, some kids out here. Let's just say, I play a role in the Johnson family Christmas tradition, and it's something he looks forward to, the kids look forward to, I look forward to, and man, it's pretty cool. I'll tell you, like, my favorite Rock memory, even though we wrestled so many times, we had the Rock and Sock connection, my favorite Rock memory was after I sent him a Christmas video. 10 minutes after I sent it, he sent me a 3.5-minute voice message. And I took the phone, I said, kids, let Mom listen to this. And they walked into
While maybe right, never say never.
no, I can say never.
Never.
I can absolutely say never.
Something I just saw. I think it just aired a couple of weeks ago, a month ago. Hidden Treasures. I'm a huge. Anybody here watch Hidden Treasures? I love Hidden Treasures. But before we dive into some of these episodes, I have to ask you: have you kept anything over time?
Well, I was just telling a friend of mine yesterday that, when I started doing wrestling appearances, the common feeling, like the expert feeling, was there was no value in wrestling memorabilia. The only value was the momentary thrill someone gets of meeting you and taking a photo. That's no longer the case. When I went and saw a shirt that I had sold for $700 going for $7,500, it made me, first of all, wish I'd worn more than just sweatpants and flannel shirts, right? Like, can you imagine the cachet that, like, Seth Rollins, like, with his wild outfits? Like, Sasha Banks' husband did, I think, of all of her outfits. So she always had something new every few weeks. It's like, I believe if they ever wanted to part with that, they could fund, they were talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I did hold on to some things. One thing that I held on to was all the notebooks I wrote my books in. I do have one of the two original Mankind shirts, one of the two original Mankind masks, the original Mankind tights and boots, Dude Love, tights, boots, and the second shirt. The issue I have, I gave the first Dude Love shirt to a young man with cerebral palsy who still has it on his wall. I believe asking for it back would constitute a heel turn.
I'll be waiting for that episode.
But I'm going to be loaning some of these things to the cool thing is the Professional Wrestling Hall. Now, there's a WWE Hall of Fame, which, although being the real Hall of Fame, is not a physical structure.
Right.
But the National Wrestling Hall of Fame in Iowa can be visited. And then a friend of mine who I knew from years ago, he's the president now of the International Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and they made the wise decision to house it inside the big arena in Albany, New York. So within 6 months, though the museum had been visited by more people than had visited it in 10 years when it was in Texas. So there is an actual place, and I'm going to loan it. I'd rather it be on display so people can enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Than be in a box, in my house. I got to tell you, when I was doing Treasures and I found the chair that The Rock had hit me with 11 times, I thought that'd be a nice gift from WWE. You know, like if Rock would sign that, like that would be some serious money, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But thanks to all of you, or some of you, I made semi-serious money this weekend, and I did it sitting on my butt, laying in the same comfortable bed for 3 nights. And so even when a day isn't as good as you hoped it would be, it'll be like, I said to Jerry Lawler, I used to have to work 6 weeks for this, you know? And so I'm really grateful that there's an audience still here. Never thought that would be the case when I got out of full-time wrestling in 2000. And just really grateful. And you know what else I'd be grateful for? If we, at the end of the conclusion of this, if we do Oklahoma's largest conga line back to my table, no, but it would. If I'm going to go back to the table for about 20 minutes after we're done here, and if anyone wants something, that'd be the last call.
How did it go about that you got onto Hidden Treasures? Who was who called you?
I think I was up there, doing hosting a video or something, and then one of the guys, producers I've known for years, asked me if I'd be interested, and he did warn me the travel was going to be pretty brutal, because unlike a WWE loop where you might fly into, say, Boston, and then from there you hit Rhode Island and Connecticut, and you finish up at the Garden and you fly back. I mean, we're working around other people's schedules. So I remember one loop, I went from Nashville to Modesto, California, to Boston, to the middle of nowhere in Kansas, because that was the only time they could get Bill Goldberg. It was the only time he had availability. Lita calls me and goes, Mick, I live 5 minutes from Modesto. I would gladly do that. So I called them up and I was like, hey, Amy lives 5 minutes from Modesto. Can she do that? They said, well, it's Kurt Angle's milk truck. We really want you for that one. I was like, darn it. So we were packing on so many miles, but once we got the chance to work, we both really enjoyed it. And I really liked, I thought Booker and Amy and I had good, good camaraderie.
Right.
And I think, one of the nicest compliments came from, when I say Amy and Lita, they're the same person. She's one of the few wrestlers whose real name I actually know. So if you're a fan and you're like, hey, have you seen whatever AJ Styles' real name is? I'd be like, I don't have any idea who that is. Yes, I've known him for 20 years. No, I don't know his real name, and I'm not going to learn it now. But Lita's boyfriend is not a wrestling fan, so he could only judge me based on what he saw there. And he said, he's like a Rhodes Scholar in a trucker's body. And I said, I'll take that.
That's your next business card.
That's not bad, right?
It's
a good catchphrase.
What's the coolest thing that you have personally seen? Whether maybe not something that you were able to get, because some of these collectors just have a ton of stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know what? This isn't necessarily the coolest thing I saw. It's the fact that I experienced it with Cody Rhodes. When he got to see his dad's stuff, because his dad had been on top of the world, and then hit some tough times. I didn't want to say hard times. I don't want to say that as a joke, because it's one of the famous Dusty Rhodes promos. And so Cody was getting to see stuff that used to be in his house. And I mean, I know better than to make judgments based on looks, but sometimes we can't help ourselves. So when we came up to this house, unlike this mansion that this one doctor lived in who had that extensive Randy Savage collection, not only that, he had extensive World War I, World War II, Olympics. This guy had to have a few $1 million worth of stuff in his house. And he lived in a lavish home. We come up in a very modest community, and I said to Cody, I think we're going to be, this is me, making an assumption, which you're not supposed to do.
Right.
I think we're going to be able to get this. And then 5 minutes into the visit, the guy said, I wouldn't sell this for $1 million. And we offered him something so big that they didn't even put on the show. I think because they realized if this got out, if collectors out there knew that WWE, you're filming this, the world's going to find out. Can you put that down? Please, thank you. Thanks. Otherwise, we would all miss out on the secret.
Right.
So the guy said he'd be willing to part with something of The Undertaker's, or something of Warriors. He was also a huge Goldust fan, loved Dusty, loved Cody. And I talked to Ben at the warehouse, and he said, I'll tell you what, we would be willing to trade him the casket from Undertaker and Goldust casket match, where I came up out of the casket at the end of the match through some type of trap door. And I said, you could prop that casket right in the middle. And as we're showing him the match on the iPad, he's no-selling it, as we say in wrestling. And he wanted no part of that. And so he loaned it to us. But it just shows you how valuable this stuff is to some people. Like, I'd say half of the people will say, I won't part with this for anything, or they'll say, I'll part with it for an experience. Right. Because you can't really put a price tag on, an experience. But it was really a good experience for me. Loved doing it. Just the travel was pretty rough.
Do they give you a budget beforehand, or do you have to call during?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for example, the first week, the first season of the show was hosted by a wrestler named AJ Francis, and I was a guest. And so the first thing AJ told me was the negotiations are all legit. Like, they might produce a storyline, to make it interesting. But as far as going in there and negotiating, that's 100% legit. And so, again, I'm talking about a shirt that I knew I had sold. I believe I had sold it in Japan for $700, which seemed like a lot of money, even though I'd paid like $400. So it wasn't like I was making out like a bandit. But we'd realized early on that the real leather wasn't going to lend itself to being washed, and they came up with a pleather. So I basically had two shirts that I wasn't going to be wearing. So we bid on this shirt, and AJ says, I'll give you $5,000. And the guy doesn't even blink. He says, no. And I was shocked, right? Because I knew what I had sold it for. And he goes, $6,000. And we huddle up. I said, AJ, what's the budget? He goes, $7,500. We offer him $7,500, no deal. And that's where I come in with and I will come to your home and watch the pay-per-view of your choice. And you will be able to watch in your house with Mick Foley. And that was what sealed the deal. Yeah.
And I have to talk about this. I have to ask. Most 2 episodes or so ago was a very now infamous episode with Hulk Hogan, right?
Show of hands if you saw the episode with Hulk Hogan. Not too many of you. Okay. Well, I'll fill you in as we go. Are you?
Right. So during the episode, it is noted that you and Hogan hadn't spoken for.
No, we'd spoken, but
not.
He'd said something that hurt me real, badly, like in 2003, over 20 years ago. And since then, we'd shaken hands and we talked a little bit, but there'd never been any acknowledgement. And so he went out of his way to acknowledge it, to apologize, and he actually apologized on 2 different occasions, even though they only showed it once. Right. And it really meant a lot to me. This is how I judge people, right? Like, when I broke into wrestling, Hulk Hogan wasn't the style I wanted to do. I definitely went to Madison Square Garden, and I got excited when Hulk came out, but I was never a full-fledged Hulkamaniac. But Shane Douglas, who was my friend from my Danucci training days, when he was in WWE, he said, Mick, he goes, I don't see eye to eye with Hogan on everything, but I'll tell you what, when you walk in and he has a Make-A-Wish child, like, this was a thing before John Cena was doing the Make-A-Wish. Hulk Hogan was doing the Make-A-Wishes. And these are all people requesting. They're children facing life-threatening challenges. And he goes, Mick, those kids would just be beaming. And so for me, no matter what I heard, and he's had a couple of incidents, right. I'm like, we all have good and bad parts of us, but I'm going to remember, when I think of Hulk Hogan, I'm going to think of that guy with those kids and making that day one of the best days of their life. So and I think I told him that didn't make the air. But yeah, I do consider Hulk a friend. So when he said that, I did not feel like it was necessary, but it was very much appreciated. So he didn't have to say it, but I was glad he did.
But yeah, obviously it had to touch you.
Yeah, big time. You can see I'm not wearing a Hulkamania shirt. It looks like a Hulkamania shirt. Does anyone know what it actually says? Woofle Mania. Woofle is the name of my Papillon. And just for the fun of it, I show up on OVW Wrestling to do commentary for my friend Al Snow for free so that I can create a storyline around my dog. Woofle.
That's awesome. I love that. By the way, so we do have a microphone right there. So if
Yes,
you all
go
have
ahead and line
questions.
up. And,
So
take
as
some
folks are lining up, I
questions.
want to ask you about something else that happened very recently. You got to marry Nita Strauss. Not you married.
Yeah, I
Nita
didn't
Strauss,
marry her.
But you got to perform. Sorry, you got to perform
Yeah.
the ceremony for Nita Strauss.
I sure did.
I mean, that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah. I told them I had a flashback. I took off. My son's an aspiring musician, Mickey, and Nita's been really helpful to him. Nita Strauss, one of the best guitarists in the world, and she's known more for her guitar work for Alice Cooper, but she's got these 2 blistering solo albums, instrumental albums. And my son Mickey loves to drive, so we were driving up to the White Mountains from Tennessee, which is a hike, and we were going to see Nita's show in Boston. And that's a long drive. I was 4 hours late. I missed the show, but I was able to catch up with them. And her fiance said, her fiance Josh said, Nita and I really want to talk to you. And so we went to a diner, and I thought they were going to reprimand me for being late and for missing a show a couple of years ago. And instead, they said, Nita and I would like to know if you'd like to officiate our wedding. And I said, man, I would love to do that. And so I love the idea that I've been given the great fortune to say words and sentences that no one else will ever say. And so 3 weeks ago, I found myself saying the words, and now, a reading from 1 Corinthians from Alice Cooper. So yeah, as a matter of fact, there's a guy, he's Vincent/Jude. He's a big part of GalaxyCon, and I got my minister's license so that I could marry he and his wife Heather. And it was funny, they had me actually appear on an episode of Say Yes to the Dress, because who better to help a woman make the most important fashion choice? Does anyone watch the show? Okay, so I had never seen it, but wrestling has equipped me for a lot of things. So as soon as I saw Randy's really flamboyant, and I was like, oh yeah, I can play off Randy. Like this is gonna be easy. And so I had the fanny pack on, and I waited until he said, what do you have in that fanny pack anyway? I said, not much, and I pulled out my keys and my wallet, and the third thing I pulled out was a pair of underwear. And he says, you have underwear in your fanny pack? I said, yeah, it's a 3-day trip, and I travel light. And then when she finally found the dress of her dreams, like the 3rd time, and she had tears streaming down her face, I said, there's just one thing missing. And I took off my fanny pack, like to place it around her, and Randy all but tackled me to prevent me from besmirching the beautiful wedding dress. And then when I got to the show, when I got to the wedding, because Say Yes to the Dress is filming it too, I've got my suit jacket on, and they probably weren't slacks, they were probably sweatpants. And then the showrunner, who's like the director, goes, where's the fanny pack? I said, do you want me to wear a fanny pack to officiate the wedding? She goes, I think our audience would like to see the fanny pack. So I married them with the fanny pack on, brother.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi. So I was one of those who got to see you at Mid-South. I mean, World Class.
World Class, yeah.
Yes. No, that's where I first got to see you on TV. And as someone who worked for the Von Erichs, I wondered what your opinion was on the Iron Claw, if you've seen it, and just to share that.
Yeah, I watched it with my 2 younger boys in the theater. I really enjoyed it. It brought a lot of great memories to me. It's such an extensive story. They had to take a couple little shortcuts, like Chris, the youngest brother, isn't involved, and Kerry, he lost his foot a few years after he won the NWA title that made it look like he won the title with a missing foot. And other than that, like the little tiny details are things that no one else would know. So that when Harley Race suplexed Kevin, who was Zac Efron doing a heck of a job, and I hope he gets recognized, you know, with some nominations. I suplexed him on the concrete, and I leaned over to one of my boys and said, "Sportatorium floor was wooden." So I know those things, but I really liked it. And I think it's really telling that the critics don't go out of their way to just dissect something because it's wrestling. It's I think The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke really paved the way for what we do to be treated, you know, respectfully by. It doesn't have to be everyone's taste, but the stories involved can be really, really intriguing. And the Von Erich story is one of the most tragic tales. Like I think if Shakespeare had handed in a story about the Von Erichs, his editor would have said, "No one will believe this could happen," you know, because it was just so incredible. I wrestled Kerry more so than Kevin, but I see Kevin every couple of years, and I'm one of the few guys besides Undertaker, you know, who worked world class with him. So we have that bond. Pretty cool. Thanks for a great question.
Hello.
Hi. You guys already kind of touched base on a little bit, talking about crossing over from wrestling to other mediums. So Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I heard them go, "What?"
Yes.
All of a sudden, I'm a big deal.
So my friends were like, "You have to watch this. You have to watch this." I'm like, "Okay, fine, I'll watch it." And they're like, "Get to the blind bandit." And then I immediately stop it. I'm like, "I know this voice." And I have friends that are non-wrestling fans that are here because I've said, "You have to come," because the Boulder will be here. Did you expect that to become a big deal?
No,
Has it
no.
become
Like
a big
I've probably
deal?
done 10 voices for animation, and it seemed like fun. They did not have a prototype of what the character looked like, so I didn't know it looked like Rock, and I didn't realize Boulder played off Rock. And so I'm not really a great voice guy, you know. Like I have a couple. I do a decent Terry Funk, you know, middling Stallone, and so I was like, all right, how am I going to do this? And I just basically thought of Jesse Ventura, and I rolled my final consonant sounds. I went, "The Boulder is conflicted about fighting a little girl," and it wasn't until a few years went by that, you know, I realized, wow, this is something that's connecting with people. So about 6 months ago, I had a guy make up Boulder photos, which I somehow forgot to bring here. But I saw a girl sitting on the plane with her dad, and she was watching, you know, with the TV on demand, she was watching Avatar. And so when the plane landed, I leaned over and I said, "Hey, sir, is it all right if I say something to your daughter?" He said, "Sure." I said, "I was the voice of the Boulder." And she looked at me with the biggest eyes, like I was the biggest star in the world. And I'm just so grateful. Like there was this San Diego Comic-Con. It's actually a difficult Comic-Con because there's so many celebrities. They only let you do 4 hours. And it's in the rules that everyone's allowed to get free autographs, which can really hurt, you know, your bottom line, especially because you have to pay your own flight, your own rooms, and it's difficult, you know. If you don't book a year in advance, you're 20 miles away from the place. And so everyone who wanted to see me had seen me by Sunday afternoon. I was just excited because I was going to get a chance to meet Tori Amos for the first time. And then all of a sudden there came this mad rush of about 10 fans who'd just come from an Avatar panel and found out the Boulder was in the building. And it's just amazing, like, how much that show connected with people. You know, I'm really proud to do it. Right now, I've done 2 episodes of a show. I don't even know the name, but I play the husband of Becky Lynch, and we're 2 former wrestlers, like bringing up. Do you know the one?
No,
I should know it. You know, I just did it a couple weeks ago. But no doubt the Boulder is the role that has stuck out to people. So thank you for bringing it up. And I took a photo with Toph a couple of years ago. So I would love to be part of, you know, hopefully I'll put it out there for GalaxyCon. Like, if there's ever a Avatar Last Airbender panel, I'd love to be part of it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for that new one though.
I would say the 2 the two guest appearances I get asked about the most are Avatar: The Last Airbender and Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World.
That's right. Yeah. Woo!
And you actually crashed at GalaxyCon a couple months ago. You crashed the Boy Meets World panel.
I did crash their panel. And then Topanga and I, who are in touch, like, not just that we see each other at things, like, we stay in touch. And I was like, hey, I'm going to order a Topanga shirt. Can you wear your cactus shirt? And so we took a photo together. And fans love to see worlds colliding. And it was one of, like, the 4 highest liked posts that I've done on Instagram. Yeah, so it's cool when you meet different people from different walks of life. I like it.
Hello.
Hi. So my question is, like, what got you into wrestling, or who got you into liking wrestling in your career?
Oh, yeah. Well, technically, it was a car that got me into the wrestling. This thing working? Well, I was a fan. I loved it. It was a great bonding experience for me and my dad when I was a teenager, and we didn't have a whole lot in common. That's probably the thing I'm most grateful for. And I knew I was pretty limited, very limited as an athlete, but I thought I could make up for it for like a flair for the theatric. And I started watching, and I realized that I did not look like the people who were successful, and that if I wanted to stand out, I was going to have to do some things that most people would say were not wise physical moves to make. So maybe the most difficult part of my life is to be on an elevated platform like this and not think of it as a place to drop elbows off of. But I loved Jimmy Snuka. I would stay home on Saturday nights in the hopes that when wrestling was on at midnight for 1 hour, that he might do the Superfly leap. And then when I got into wrestling, the three biggest factors for me were Bruiser Brody, the Dynamite Kid, and Terry Funk with an N, so I'm not actually dropping an F-bomb. Okay.
Thank you.
That was a great question.
Hello.
Could I ask you 2 questions now? Who is your favorite wrestler, and why am I? All right, let me text Seth and tell him we've got a little issue here. Okay, ask the question. I'll be addressing this as we speak.
Hello.
Out of Mankind, Dude Love, and Cactus Jack, who is your favorite character to play?
I'm going to give you a politically correct answer, but it's still a correct answer. Hold on one second. No, comma, I am doing my panel, period.
Multitasking.
So Seth's real name is Colby, okay? Colby, it's Mick, period. I have a little issue here at the GalaxyCon in Oklahoma City, period. There's a young fan here who claims that you, comma, and not I, are her favorite wrestler, period. Just want you to know that it really hurts. We'll see if he responds. Okay. What was the question? Oh, yeah, dude. So the truth is, loved the big matches as Cactus. I had the most fun doing storylines and angles as Mankind. Dude Love was by far my least favorite until I kind of reinvented him for cameo videos as kind of like a guy who's about 1/3 as cool as he thinks he is. And he sings the best birthday songs, let me just give you a little bit. I'll do it a cappella, right? Who's celebrating birthday soon? Okay, and how old? 32, okay. And what's your name? Edgar. Your birthday tomorrow, and your name's Edgar? Okay. And now the time draws near to celebrate that anniversary. Edgar, it's been 32 years, Daddy. since that first night inside the nursery. You've lived a life that's cool since you began your fateful Earth stay. But more, much more than this, today's your birthday. The day dude hopes it's night. All right, you get the idea, right? Woo! So I do. I like it, you know. And my kids will ask me, like, they ask me about it. It's like, yeah, I've had a lot of concussions, you know. And if you just sit at home and let the injuries, you know, like dominate your life, you're lost. So I'm constantly like thinking of things and trying to, you know, exercise my brain. And so one of the things I'll do is I'll start on one of those songs not knowing where the rhymes are, and then try to create them as I go. And I really like it. And I think people can tell when someone's having fun and that it's infectious. You know, like when I come up into a panel, yeah, I like being here. I like having fun. When people come to my table, you know, they think, they know I like it. And there's this one thing, I think it's a pretty wise statement. It was a convention in Orlando, and a fan asked me like why I always seem so happy at my table, and then specified an A-list star who didn't look like he wanted to be there. And I go, well, that guy, he's a great actor, right? I've seen some of his movies. And everyone nodded. I said, maybe he should act like he wants to be there. Like, maybe that's the least you can do when someone's waiting in line and paying their hard-earned money, to give them the impression you want to. Because there are some nights in wrestling, maybe you're having a really tough day. The irony of wrestling is people think you're fake injuries. Far more often, you're pretending not to be hurt when you are, because when someone drives a couple hundred miles and spends good money to take their family out for a show, we owe it to them and to you to transport them into a different world where those nagging injuries are not part of it. So I just, that's the dude love. I know it's a roundabout answer, but I just want to stress that, you know, I like doing these things and refound my love for dude. But I will tell you, words are strong, because a child came up to me at the last con I was at and said, yeah, I really like your character, Dude Lover. I thought,
Just one letter.
one letter changes the whole outlook, right? So, yeah, words are powerful, brother. If we can put the earmuffs on and the phones down, I'll tell you my other favorite was when this girl came out. She was an adult. And she goes, oh, Cactus Jack, I remember when you finger banged me. And I said, I don't believe I did. And then she said, didn't he finger bang me, Mama? Finger banged her twice. And then they did the bang bang. Oh, okay, all right. Got to clarify these things, you know. Sure did. Finger banged her twice.
Twice. How many times?
Twice.
All right, we only got a couple minutes left. We're going to try to get through all of these.
All
So
right.
lightning round. Hello.
Hey, hello. So growing up, loved Dude Love, not Dude Lover.
Dude Lover, yeah.
Yep, Dude Lover, right? Loved Mankind, but Cactus Jack scared me to death.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was awesome, right? So let's say we go back to Prime Cactus Jack. If he could wrestle anyone nowadays in like an anything goes match or street fight, what have you, who would you wrestle?
Oh, man, I think Moxley would be a good choice.
Okay.
I think Kevin Owens would be a good choice. And then one of the things I always liked, whether it was Cactus Jack or Mankind, is to take somebody who had a completely different style and try to work our styles into each other. So someone like Shawn Michaels was perfect for me. We had that one singles match on pay-per-view, and it was probably my second favorite match. And like, the one thing I regret is that we didn't have a chance to do that on the grandest stage of them all, because if we could pull off what we did in September of '96 in our first singles match ever, I think we could have really made some magic at Mania. But those would be, I can't think, like Darby Allin, for example. He's so much smaller than me that I could actually do power moves. And I think in the old days, and this is one thing that's missing from wrestling because times have changed, but there was that sense sometimes when a monster heel came into town, like an Abdullah the Butcher or Bruiser Brody or Terry Funk, that their opponents weren't so much trying to win a match as they were trying to survive.
Right.
And I think we lost a little bit of that. And I think Prime Cactus Jack could have made fans feel like Darby Allin's life was in danger. And that would have made for a great match.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello.
I just wanted to ask, what was going through your mind the night of the 1998 Royal Rumble?
The
And
night,
did
or
you
specifically
realize-
when I was on the top there?
Did you realize that it would be such a rarity being the only person to ever enter a Royal Rumble three
Oh, the Royal
separate
Rumble. I thought you were
times?
talking about I'm sorry. Yeah, I have to tell you, I gained, not that I didn't have respect for Broadway performers, but to see the quick changes, my regret was that I didn't order 3 pairs of boots with Velcro. Because I wore the 17.5-inch boots as all the characters. Earlier Cactus Jack had a shorter pair. And I can only liken it to a NASCAR pit crew taking the wheels off a car and getting it back out in seconds, because I had like a team of people unlacing my boots and putting new ones on. And so I just, oh man, I know we're running real short. I'll give you this line and we'll still do the other ones real quickly, is that when my youngest son became a wrestling fan, he couldn't see how someone who looked like his dad had ever been a big deal. And so he was, Royal Rumble's coming up, and he goes, "Dad, were you ever in the Royal Rumble?" And I was like, "Oh, I got this guy now. I got him." I said, "Was I in it?" I said, "Not only was I in it, I was in it 3 different times as 3 different characters in one match." And without missing a beat, he looked at me and said, "And you still couldn't win?" Which is good, right?
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, man. All right, 3 questions
All
in
right,
11 seconds.
Quick question.
Hey, Mick, where's Sacco?
Sacco. I had some. I sold a few. I gave one away. I did drive. Now, geographically, I didn't realize that by driving up to Louisville, was actually, to do OVW, I was actually tacking 7 hours onto an already 10-hour drive. So I drove 17 hours to get here in bad weather. So I could have brought those things. But traditionally, I don't risk going through TSA with Mr. Sacco.
I hear you, but my main question was, Vice Channel has a dark side of the ring.
Right.
Now, have they pitched anything about, like, because I'm sure that episode with the Undertaker going off that top of that
Yeah.
cage, I'm sure that was a very dark day.
Yeah, but it's brought a lot of happiness to
Yeah?
millions of people. It really has. It's a complex situation. I've been a guest on there many times, and I am in talks to have a show done about one of the big matches. So
That's good.
we'll
Thanks.
you'll have to wait and see, all right? Thank you. 2 more questions. A lot of pressure on that second gentleman to have the best question to close it out.
Hey, Mick, just as we all know, Hell in a Cell has kind of become a big part of your legacy.
Right.
And I've read and seen that at times you struggled with that, and now you kind of have a more positive outlook
Yeah.
on it. But if you could pick a singular moment that's not the cell, you would want people to see more, to remember you by more, what would it be?
I think that's a good question. I think people remember, there's a lot of different things. I'm really proud of the fact that not right after, I mean, it's clearly a distant second place, Hell in a Cell and Rock and Sock Connection, which represent 2 completely different aspects of those characters, right? One was really intense and frightening, and the other stuff I did with Dwayne Johnson was just fun. So I'm cool with being remembered for the goofy stuff I did. I like that. And I like to think it allowed some of the other talent to realize you don't have to be tough and cool. Like, I identified a long time before other people did that the crowd wasn't made up of, first of all, who are these ultra cool, hip people? Like, nobody's really that way. And I was like, I'm going to turn my nerd dial up to 11, Like, I'm already at like a 6 or 7 normally. And that was when that Mankind character started really connecting with the audience, is that I realized that you couldn't have 3 hours of tough guys. You had to have something change it up. Don't get me wrong. I had what I considered my happy place, and when someone took me out of the happy place, my feeling was, I'll do whatever is necessary, no matter how heinous to that individual, so I can get back to my happy place. but I didn't want to be the guy who was always yelling, always angry, and I wanted to show a little bit of kindness, which other people, I think, felt were not confident enough in themselves to show, because kindness is strength that some people interpret as a weakness, and I think I was a little ahead of the curve in understanding that. Okay, final question.
All right, so you've wrestled as Cactus Jack, Dude Love, Mankind, and even under Mick Foley sometimes. Who, out of all of your personas, who do you think would have strived the most in today's age of wrestling?
Oh, in today's age? Probably none of them. Hey, look, I'm really lucky I caught such a break in WWE, and I know Vince McMahon's, he's going through a tough time. But really him taking that chance and investing in me made a huge difference, and listening to some of the things I said and telling me he would trust my judgment to do things he otherwise I'll take my chances, and I was big. I believe you take your swings out there, and that when you do, like, connect solidly, there's nothing like watching a promo succeed or a match unfold like you hoped it would, the way you saw it in your head. It's like watching a baseball sail into a purple twilight sky. So if I was given if I had another super huge break, and also if I had the group of people around me who liked me enough to give me advice, even though they knew on a certain level, anytime you help someone younger, you're creating competition for yourself. And if you do it anyway because it feels like the right thing to do, that's what helps make the business strong. And so I don't know if I came around again if I would have had that same group of people who were willing to help me out along the way. And that's why I try my best, even if it's the enhancement talent who are terrified and are all in this one small dressing room that looks like a closet. I try to go in there and say hello and tell them to enjoy themselves and not to be so frightened, that they forget this is supposed to be fun. So I think we did pretty good, huh? All right. So I will be out of the table for like the next 20, 30 minutes. If you want to stop by, that'd be great. But I really appreciate all of you coming out. I know it's been a long weekend. You have a lot of choices, and I'm glad you made this one.
And before you go, we're going to take a little stage selfie. So if you